Wow, while they're feeling the burn on the campaign trail, is your cash about to feel it next? Welcome, everybody. I'm David Asman. This is Forbes on Fox. Welcome. Just a little more than a week away from the Iowa caucuses, but if Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders wins the road to the White House, would that put taxpayers in the poorhouse? Let's go in focus and find out with Steve Forbes, Mike Ozanian, Sabrina Schaefer, Carrie Sheffield, John Tamny, and Mark Tadgy. Steve, who was in Los Angeles today in the nice warm weather, we should say. Let's go over the costs of some of Bernie Sanders' programs. And the Wall Street Journal put this together. Socialized medicine, $15 trillion. Increased Social Security benefits, $1.2 trillion. Rebuilding infrastructure, $1 trillion. By the way, this is over a 10-year period, but it still adds up to $18.3 trillion, which is our entire economy.
Well, that's right, David. Bernie Sanders would make Barack Obama look like Ronald Reagan. It would mean massive new tax increases, which would hurt investment, turn already a troubled economy into run it right off the road into a ditch, into a severe recession or depression. He'd blow up the global trading system with his protectionism. And in terms of health care, he would socialize that as well, which would crush new research and development. If you think you have a bad experience in hospitals now with specialists not talking to each other, wait till Bernie gets in charge. It'll be like all those troubled VA hospitals.
Well, Mark,
so as Donald Trump would say, he's a disaster.
All right. Well, even Hillary Clinton, she's not saying he's a disaster, but she's saying that he's too far to the left, too socialist, Mark, to which you say what?
Maybe. He is at least getting some people to talk about what we need to talk about. And the Republican candidates want to essentially cut everything, cut taxes, give the fat cat rich 1% even bigger tax cuts. We're not going to cut spending and solve some of the problems we have in our society, like infrastructure, like health care, like things relating to our aging population and what we're going to do with Social Security. So the only thing I hear from the Republican mantle is cut, 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 and give people like Steve bigger tax cuts and let them make more money.
Well,
so, I mean, why should Steve, who's a billionaire, already get to make more money?
Mike, even Bernie Sanders realizes it's going to cost money, and he's put together a tax proposal. He's hiking taxes on capital gains, $92 billion, estate taxes, a whole list of tax increases. Comes up to about $1 trillion a year. That, by the way, is still $7 trillion short of what he needs to, what he says he's going to spend. What do you think of these tax hikes? How would they affect the economy?
Bernie believes that he knows better than we do, David, what we should do with our money. The problem is that Bernie's plan would really suppress capital formation, which is the genesis of economic growth. That's what Barack Obama did. Bernie Sanders would double down on that. If you think the economy's been bad under Barack Obama, it would be twice as bad under Bernie.
Kerry, of course, Bernie calls himself a democratic socialist, but even if you look at democratic socialist experiments, haven't we had enough so far in the 20th century to know that they don't work?
It's a disaster. I mean, he wants to turn us into the United States of Greece, the United States of Argentina. Fortunately, they have a new president who's going to turn things around over there. He wants us to turn us into the United States of Italy, which has a tremendously high youth unemployment. You know, young people love Bernie Sanders. He sounds amazing. He sounds intriguing. But once you look at actually what he wants to do, he wants to destroy Wall Street. You know, don't go after Steve Forbes. What he's trying to do is to take down that wall between Wall Street and Main Street. We need to get people investing. We need to get everyday Americans invested, and Bernie Sanders wants to destroy all of that.
But, John Tamny, there are a lot of young people out there who don't remember the failed socialist experiments. Some people actually are talking about a silent progressive majority that would vote Bernie in. What do you think?
Well, it'd be a scary thought, and it'd be one that would definitely cause a market correction if the American electorate went socialist. The one bit of silver lining in this is, let's face it, Bernie Sanders talks big about all these grandiose ideas to increase spending and raise taxes, but he would face a ferocious opposition, not just from the Republican Party, but even some Democrats scared about the implosion of their own party. So we will neuter him, but I don't think we have to worry about it.
But he's already having an effect on the Democratic Party, at least. Sabrina, by the way, the polls show him beating Donald Trump in a head-to-head. Those things could change, of course. But Hillary looks at these polls, and he's pulling Hillary left of Obama. Now she's beginning, because she wants the nomination, she's beginning to propose economic proposals or plans which are to the left of Barack Obama.
Right, and of course some of that is expected, David, because this is a primary still, right? So they're competing for that progressive part of their party, but when the general election comes, both of them, I imagine, whoever is the nominee, will move more to the center. I think John hits on an important point, which is that trust in government right now is tremendously low. In fact, Pew finds that only 19% of Americans say that they trust government most of the time. So that is going to make a lot of what Bernie Sanders wants to do much more difficult. And the reality is, a lot of the things he's going after is what Mike says. It's because he thinks that government knows best. He's going after corporate tax havens because he thinks that money could better be appropriated into infrastructure and things that government oversees, which we all know here on this panel is absolutely wrong, even Mark.
I want to go back to Mark, though, for a second, because, Mark, there is this dichotomy between those people who want the government to do more and those people who think the government does too much and does it badly right now.
There is, but I mean, we have deadlock in our government. We don't have anything getting done right now. And I just want to remind the panel that we forget that the last 8 years of Republican rule brought us the worst downturn since the Great Depression. So now we want to put in people who have no idea what and are not even talking about economic policies. I'm talking about the Republican candidates. We're talking about how people part their hair, and they haven't come up with any solutions. Now, I'm not saying I agree with Sanders.
That's not entirely true. There are a lot of solutions being proposed every day. But, Steve, what would Bernie Sanders' socialist plan do to America? Could we recover from it? Could our economy, businesses, recover from the imposition of these socialist ideas?
The answer is yes, but in the meantime, a lot of unnecessary damage would be done. And globally, a troubled United States is going to lead to even uglier politics around the world. And that's going to lead to more violence, war, and bloodshed. And Mark, by the way, should read my new book, Reviving America, the chapter on the flat tax, where a family of four, the first 52,000...
Have you read it? Be honest now.
No, he hasn't.
I have a great deal of affection for you, Steve.
But a family of four, first $52,000 of earning wages would be free of federal income tax. That's a pro-growth approach. Yeah. And as John Kennedy and Ronald Reagan understood, reduce the burden on the American people, and we all prosper.
But, Mike, again, the question is how many of the folks who, the middle class, which used to be much broader than it is now, are there out there? Are there more single people or people who don't much care about the middle class that might vote Bernie into power?
No, I don't think Bernie would win. In fact, but Mark does raise a very good point. The Republicans under George W. Bush were horrific. They spent. Barack Obama doubled down on that.
Terrible.
The only person running for office right now that cares about individual liberty and actually reducing government spending is Ted Cruz.
All right, John, what do you think?
I think Mike hits on the basic point that when government grows, it's bad for the economy, whether it's Republicans or Democrats. Now, I don't think the electorate likes slow growth, so it's not going to go for a socialist who would at least attempt to tamp it down.
All right. Well, the polls show different right now, but things could change. Thank you, gang. Coming up next, the